I can share with you, I think the beginning of kindness happened very early on in my life when I was a 5-year-old little boy in Greece, in Athens. My grandfather, whose name I carry and I honor, and he was the gentlest, the sweetest man. I don't remember much of him because he died when I was 6. But when I was 5 years old, I was sitting in his lap, and he was just so playful. He whispered in my ear, he goes, "Do you want to know a secret?" Of course, what little kid doesn't want grandpa to tell him? I'm like, "Of course, grandpa. Yes, tell me." Obviously, this is in Greek being said. He goes, "Do you want to be the richest man in the world?" And I'm like, "Yes, grandpa." Like, I'm really so excited now. He was kind of baiting me a little bit. He goes, "Well, this is what you got to do. Do something good for somebody else every day, and you will be the richest man in the world." End quote.
Welcome to the Kindness Factor podcast, sharing life-changing personal stories of the transformational impact of deep kindness. Hosted by
Dr. Elia, the happiness doctor.
and Randy McNeely, the kindness giver. Thank you for joining us. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be. Welcome to another episode of the Kindness Factor podcast. I'm Randy McNeely, your co-host, along with my other wonderful co-host, Dr. Elia Gourgouris. How are you doing today, Elia?
We're doing good. I'm sending you greetings from Greece.
And greetings from Greece. And today we've got a special treat for you because I don't know how much you know about my co-host, Dr. Elia, but today we're going to interview him because he has got some fantastic, dozens and dozens and dozens of fantastic stories to share. But I want to share with you just a little bit about him. He's known as America's Happiness Doctor, and he's the president of the Happiness Center, which is an organization of world-leading experts on positive psychology. He's also a founding partner at the Global Institute of Thought Leadership. And recently, he's become the host of a wonderful TV show on the new mental health television network called The Happy Hour with Dr. Elia. He's also, like we said, the co-host here on this podcast. And through both of these shows, he helps people find happiness, success, and wellness, both personally and professionally. He has a PhD in psychology, and where he specialized in relationships, addiction, and marriage and family. He also worked as a family clinical psychologist during the first half of his career. And the second half of his career, his second act, you might say, he transitioned into an executive coach and leadership consultant for senior executives. He helps C-suite leaders and their teams achieve their highest potential and create an empowering culture of accountability, productivity, and happiness within their organizations. At the same time, living a balanced and healthy life. There's so much more I could say about you, Elia. One thing I do want to say, a couple things. He is the author of the Amazon best-selling book, 7 Paths to Lasting Happiness, as well as another wonderful book that came out during COVID that was a fantastic piece of literature, 7 Keys to Navigating a Crisis. And both of them provide powerful insights that can help everyone create and sustain a more fulfilling and joyful life. Well, I will have to say, Elia, and I mean this from my heart as your friend, co-host, business partner, you've made my life a more joyful experience. And I love you for that. I appreciate you, my brother, and I'm grateful to have the opportunity to talk to you a little bit today about several things. First of all, I would love to hear about who is your kindness hero? Who is someone who, and I know you have lots of them, but tell me about an experience with a kindness hero that sticks out in your mind, someone who did something kind for you that was transformative, that still impacts you today and inspires you to be the great man that you are.
Thank you, Randy, for the wonderful words. And it's a honor and a pleasure to be partners with you and to continue to spread kindness. We're both big kindness advocates throughout the world. Can't wait to speak at the conference in Palermo, Sicily next month with you and our good friend Kevin Smith and so many other wonderful people. So it'll be nice to be together on this side of the pond.
It will be. It's going
In
to be
Europe,
great.
it'll be really nice.
Just to before you jump in, just to clarify
Sure.
that, this wonderful good man, Dr. Elia, myself, and our partner with Kindness Worldwide, which is a wonderful nonprofit and dedicated to bringing the cultures of kindness to communities around the world. We have the opportunity to speak at the 11th General Assembly of the World Kindness Movement in Palermo, Italy, next month. And it's going to be a great conference. And so if you have a chance to go, that would be fantastic. Or if you have a chance to watch, because they're going to have it on, there'll be video streaming for it. It'll be well worth your time, I can promise you. And so anyway, thanks, Elia, for reminding me about that. It's a good time to give a plug for it. So
Yeah, and my understanding there'll be representatives from over 50 nations. So this is truly a global event. And I'm excited to share the stage with you, Randy and Kevin, and all these other wonderful presenters. Yeah, kindness heroes. There's, if you've lived long enough on this earth, you have more than one.
yeah.
But I can share with you. I think the genesis. I think the beginning of kindness happened very early on in my life when I was a 5-year-old little boy in Greece, in Athens. My grandfather, whose name I carry and I honor, and he was the gentlest, the sweetest man. I don't remember much of him because he died when I was 6. But when I was 5 years old, I was sitting in his lap, and he was just so playful, and he whispered in my ear, he goes, "Do you want to know a secret?" Of course, what little kid doesn't want grandpa to tell him a secret? I'm like, "Of course, grandpa. Yes, tell me." Obviously, this is in Greek being said. He goes, "Do you want to be the richest man in the world?" And I'm like, "Yes, grandpa." Like, I'm really so excited now. He was kind of baiting me a little bit. He goes, "Well, this is what you got to do. Do something good for somebody else every day, and you will be the richest man in the world." End quote. Now, somehow in my small 5-year little brain, it clicked because I kept repeating it. Do something good for somebody else every day. I'll be the richest man in the world. Now, of course, richest man in the world at the time, I thought it was like Pirates of the Caribbean, gold and silver. And, I was like in my fantasy world. I didn't, but as I
You're
got
like,
older,
whoa.
well, obviously, I mean, no 5-year-old can
Yeah.
have the capacity to understand the depth of what he was saying. But that became uh, just second nature to me. Do something good for somebody else every day, and I've done that my entire life, and it comes easy. It's just the way that it is. Now, fast forward, my family and we moved to Santa Monica in California, the United States, when I was 10, 11 years old, and I witnessed something else. This is my sort of in practice though, because what my grandpa told me was he planted the seed, right? But what happened when I came to the United States is what really changed it. So my uncle, Demetrius Gourgouris, who's the first in the family to emigrate to the United States, and he's the one that brought my dad. He was my dad's older brother. By the way, he's still alive at 95 years old. He
Oh
just
my
left
God.
Greece yesterday. He's returning back to the United States as we speak. Remarkable man. He never had kids, so my brother and I are in essence have been his kids his entire life, and our kids are like his grandkids and so on. I remember, when you come to America from a small country, Greece, we're talking about 50 years ago. So it was like, and it's like going to the moon, basically. Everything was so big, everything was so different. And I mean, even the ocean, the fact that, I'd never seen an ocean before in my life. I mean, we grew up in the Mediterranean, right? And Santa Monica is right on the water. So that's where we grew up. I remember one time, and he was the first that went to college. He was the first that went to UCLA, and eventually my brother and I also went to UCLA and so on. Um, he was wearing a UCLA t-shirt, and I really liked it. We're having dinner together, and I'm like, "Uncle, I really like your t-shirt." And I kid you not, he stopped. He just went like this. He took his t-shirt off and he gave it to me, just like that.
Wow.
And you don't know what the impact it has when you're like a 12-year-old, boy from Greece, like you don't have a whole lot, and you have somebody who you revere. I mean, he was like this wonderful man, literally give you the shirt off his back. I know that's a saying in English, but in reality, he did that. So for me, um, I think that did something that it was so profound. And that didn't happen just once. I remember a year later, he had brought this brand new tennis shoes. He was a huge tennis player, and they were kind of shiny new. Like I'd never seen tennis shoes like that before. And we had the same size at the. And I'm like, "I really like your tennis shoes." He goes, he literally takes off. He gives them to me. So to be on the receiving end of someone's generosity, kindness, so openly, without any expectations of anything in return, right? It was like it just showed me that doing something good for somebody else every day is a good philosophy to have in life. But to literally give your shirt off your back or to your shoes or whatever, it just it just blew me away. And I've never forgotten those events because it's changed who I was.
Isn't it interesting how, those simple things, they don't, they're not great big huge acts, but
To
there's
me, they were.
but well, but what I'm saying is that he didn't have to do some big elaborate thing. He did a small thing that became the big thing for you. That's the power of kindness. We do small acts of kindness for other people. And how many times do we realize that we just keep going on our way, and we don't even realize how many times that simple thing turned out to be a big thing for somebody else. My friend Rochelle Knight told me when I was 15 and needed to hear it, she said, "I think you're really neat, Randy." She had no idea how much I needed to hear that. None. I've never forgotten it. I've never forgotten how it impacted. It's 45, 46 years later, and it still impacts me. And I've mentioned this before. We went out to dinner with her. I talked to her about it years later, and she's like, "I had no clue." Yeah, my daughter, just this 2 or 3 weeks ago, good friend of her, a friend of hers from school, young lady that's going through some real challenges at home. My daughter felt like she should text her and just tell her that she cared and that she loved her and was glad that she was her friend. She gets a text back later and she says, "Thank you." She said, "I was thinking about taking my life today. I prayed that God would send me a sign if I was still supposed to be here. And then your text message came." She's still here. Just a little thing, little act for my daughter. Took her all of 30 seconds maybe to type in that text message. But
But
that
I think
became
what's
a
beautiful
big
about
act.
your daughter is that she listened to the spirit that prompted her to send that text to begin with. Because a lot of times, maybe you get those promptings and you ignore them, right? But your
Yeah.
daughter listened to it and then acted on it, and then look what happened. A life was saved. That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. Well, so here's a question for you. How did those experiences, those things influence your decision to want to become the happiness doctor, to want to go into psychology, helping people, etc.?
You know, the strange thing happened, and I was actually pretty shy, and it's hard to believe right now because you've known me for 20 years. But in middle school and high school, when I was, I had a weird name, and I just, just wanted to fit in and assimilate with everybody else. But I remember going back to, I don't know, maybe eighth grade, middle school. Both boys and girls used to come to me and share their secrets with me for some reason. And I didn't know what being a psychologist was, listening to people's problems. I didn't even know back then what that was, but it was just a natural fit for me to just helping other people. That was natural. The happiness stuff specifically has to do actually with my mom. Unfortunately, and one of the reasons why I moved to the United States is my mom got cancer when she was really young. Um, and at the time, had we stayed in Greece, my mom would have died. I mean, the cancer was like a death sentence back then. So one of the big reasons why we moved to the United States was so she could extend her life. UCLA Medical Center. My parents had lived in Los Angeles before I was born, so they were, they knew. And anyway, and she did. She lived in another 12 years, up until I had graduated from UCLA. Actually, I was 22 years old when she passed away. But on her deathbed, um, which was devastating for me. My mom was pure love, pure love. She wasn't just loved by men and women; she was beloved, and because her level of kindness and hospitality and big heart was legendary. I mean, our home was always open. We thought it was like Hotel Gourgouris, and my wife and I have actually done the same thing over the last 35 years with
You
our own home.
have. That's where that came from.
That's what, but she said, and these are her parting words. Literally the last words she ever said to me. She says, "Don't worry about me." She said, "I'm going to be just fine." And she's dying, right? She goes, "I just want you to be happy." End quote. And then she kind of fell into a coma, and then she died really within 48 hours after that. Um, So for me, happiness, although the first year, Randy, was clearly the roughest year of my entire life. Because I had such a wonderful family growing up, and my whole family imploded. My mom dies, and I was a mama's boy. I was so close to my mom. I would rather play cards with my mom and her girlfriends than go out on a Friday night or a Saturday night when I was in high school. That level of connection, because I think on a subconscious level, I knew I didn't have that much time with her left on this earth. Not consciously, but on some level, I knew that. Anyway, where was I going with that? Oh, I'm just thinking about my mom right now, because you know what's amazing? In a couple of weeks, it'll be 40 years since he died.
Wow.
I've been looking forward to this day. 40 years on this earth without my mom. I never thought I would live long enough to be, apart from her for that long. Um, but the first year was like my dad's drank even more. He's drinking and smoking himself to death because of his grief. Because my mom and dad were in love with one another for like 35 years. They were. It was my brother in his own grief left, and I don't know what he was doing his own thing. So my whole family imploded. And I remember for that first year, I just didn't want to get out of bed. I wasn't going to kill myself, but I was like, God, if I get hit by a bus today, I'm actually good to go. Like I just wanted to be with my mom. I'm 22, 23 years old. But then something happened on the 1 year anniversary. And grief anniversaries are important, especially the first year. First Christmas, first Easter, first New Year's, first Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
first birthdays, all the firsts are really hard. On the 1 year anniversary, her last statement to me came back. I just want you to be happy. And I kid you not, I feel like something changed in my brain. Something clicked. And I'm like, you know what? The best way to honor mama is for you to be happy. And as a result of that, I went back to graduate school, got my master's, PhD, and started, my private practice and so on. So I think that contributed greatly to the happiness. The kindness aspect, however, in our family, and when my wife and I, when we moved to Colorado, we got our first home and so on, and then a few years later, we got our dream home, let's say. I remember closing escrow, and we're so grateful because it was a gift from God, honestly. The circumstances around getting this home were unreal.
When a wallet was returned just moments after it was lost, a purpose was found. This one act of kindness inspired the formation of the nonprofit Kindness Worldwide to create a culture of kindness in communities throughout the world. Kindness Week Worldwide mobilized the entire community in York, Pennsylvania, featuring initiatives and playbook programs including blood drives, kindness cards, K-12 and college students embracing kindness, and an innovative means of community policing, kindness citations. If something so magical can happen in York, Pennsylvania, the same and other inspirations can happen anywhere and everywhere. Our Screen Scenes initiative featuring the Kindness Factor will showcase these many stories of kindness. Let's include your community among them. Kindness is the heartbeat of the world. Together, with your support, we can make all its hearts beat as one.
I heard the message like, listen, you know that this home was way too big for you. Always have the door open for whoever needs a place of rest.
Yeah.
A place of safety, a place of like a safe haven in
Yeah.
and over the years, I mean, we had missionaries stay in our home for, I don't even know how many, dozens of them, over 10 years at least have stayed in our home. We had friends of ours that for whatever reason, didn't have a place to stay, we stayed in our home. One time we had a homeless lady that stayed with us for like 2 months. So I feel like the hospitality, and Greeks are, known for their hospitality. I mean, it's a big part of the culture too. And
Isn't that why they
the
made the movie
openness.
Big Fat Greek Wedding? I mean,
No, I think so. Yeah, the hospitality. No, it's true. So I think we've expressed kindness by opening up our home. Having events with youth groups. I can't even tell you how many parties we had at our house with young men and young women as our kids were growing up. The doors were always open. And I'm really grateful to my wife because she's, how kind she is. I mean, she's the queen of kindness, Sona. She's
oh
kind of
yeah.
an introvert. She does it behind the scenes. I'm more of an extrovert, so you kind of see it more. But the things that she has done that nobody knows about, are just amazing. She puts me to, believe me, she does a whole lot more than I do.
Yeah.
And hopefully we've taught our kids, that the importance of giving to others, because I feel like we have been blessed. And so when you're blessed, give back, because in the end, what is life all about, right? It's about relationships.
Amen. Well, I sit and think about it. I've had the blessing of staying at your home twice, and the Hotel Gourgouris. It's a beautiful home. I had the opportunity. I went to your first home, and then I had a chance to go to. I've been to your second home a couple of times, and he honestly does. They do. They open their home to. I can't remember how many stories you've told me about different people coming, or sometimes we'll just call, and I'll call to talk to him. He says, "Well, I've got so and so coming, and somebody else is coming." There's always something going on at Hotel Gourgouris. But I want to throw something out there. You've always been that kind. Always had it open for Hotel Gourgouris. What has been the impact for you and Sona personally for doing that? How has that impacted your lives? Being willing to open up and give, particularly, well, no, I'll just go back. How has that impacted your lives? And I have another question. I'm going to have to do a follow on.
I mean, the best part is we had a young couple at the time that moved in because their apartment flooded. And, they were going to stay for like a month until their apartment got fixed. And, he was getting his master's in psychology in Colorado. And they ended up staying for 2 years. When they left, Tristan and Janique, we became sort of their Colorado parents, like a second set of parents. Well, fast forward as the years have gone by, they ended up having kids. So their kids are like our grandkids now. So I feel like the blessing is, it's just the family has expanded more. You have your own kids and then you have extra, bonus kids, if you
Yeah.
will. And we were not blessed like you with daughters. So for us, Janique is like the daughter we never have. And of course, her kids are our grandkids in essence. And it's so beautiful. I mean, that's it. I feel like that's a direct result of opening up our home. I mean, who would have known, right? The year later, and it's the blessing that keeps on giving, honestly.
That's beautiful. So here's another question for you. Okay. So has it been 2 years now since the fire? There was a massive fire that burned through Superior, Colorado, and over 1,000 homes destroyed. I mean, it pretty much flattened several neighborhoods. And you and your wife are at someone else's home, and you're watching TV, and you realize that the camera at your house, the security camera, has gone off.
Right.
And you're thinking that your home has burned down.
I mean, you could see on television from the helicopter that, we could see where our home was, and you could see fires on 3 sides. And so when the ring that you have on your front door, when that went down, I'm like, okay, so it's gone. And this was the worst, it continues to be the worst natural disaster in the history of the state of Colorado. 1,060 homes burned. Yeah. So, and when you have your dream home, all your memories, this is where the kids raised. I told them, I said, this is it. I think, honey, we lost everything. And we cried, we hugged, we cried, and we're like, it is what it is. I mean, we're alive. Our pets are okay. Our kids are okay. We got out. But it's really painful when you think that you've lost everything. I mean,
sure.
Then turns out we didn't lose everything. Somehow, miraculously, our home was still standing the next day when I got there.
Well, so you had that miracle. Your home was still there. But then you got to go and help and serve other people who weren't so fortunate. And you had some experiences. Tell us a little bit about those experiences, the experiences you had where people who, after that tragic, situation, came together. And tell us about the kindness that you saw in that situation.
Yeah. First of all, we've fed the homeless before. We've done all kinds of things for church. I mean, there's so many opportunities to serve our community. So this was different because these were our neighbors. I mean, it's not like somebody out there where you go to and help some other community, some other neighborhood. These were our neighbors. So what was beautiful about it, our little town has a community center. All the restaurants started donating food. I mean, food poured in from all kinds of restaurants. In literally, we had a line, and young people came to help too. We had food. We have divided it. Here's the chips. There, some cookies, some salad, some food, and people are driving up. Now, what's really interesting is the neighborhood where we live is sort of it's an affluent neighborhood. Usually, when you're feeding people who have lost everything, they have nothing. A lot of these people would pull up with like a Mercedes, Audi, like Tesla, like these beautiful cars, because that's the only thing, but they had nothing else. And these are people that are not used to asking for help, because materially speaking, at least, in the neighborhood, everybody's doing really well. So they have, and when they would pull up and they literally had nothing except for whatever was in their car, and they were shy. They didn't even know how to ask for help. They were like, but they had kids in the back seat. They're thirsty or whatever, and we're giving them stuff. People would actually start to cry because they had never been on the receiving end of kindness. Interestingly enough, right? A lot of times we think about helping our fellow, brothers and sisters, let's call that way, who are less fortunate, who struggle or whatever. This was an unusual population that you don't normally see, right? But
Well, they were homeless. They knew what it was like to be homeless for a little.
right.
And
So to me, it's just very touching how grateful they were, in some ways humble in some way, because when you're doing really well, you don't think about that a lot of times. Um, and I just saw a change of heart. I saw people who express gratitude, who had tears in their eyes. Um, and to me, the most important thing is to see kids and teenagers. They were running to get the food to give, through the passengers, window to give food to the people that are coming, because they were lining up, around the block. I'm talking about hundreds of cars, not 10 cars, not 20. I mean, around the clock they were coming because they had nothing. And I'm looking at, I'm an optimist by nature. You know that. I always see that the glass is full and overflowing sometimes. And I'm
yeah,
like, man, this world is going to be okay. I know everybody's gloom and doom about the new generation and this and that. When you see young kids doing so many acts of service and loving it and trying to compete, who's going to give the most food to the most cars to, and all that stuff. It was like this no, it was so cute. As a matter of fact, my wife and I, at some point, we were behind. We were just giving the food to the kids, so the kids could go and experience what it's like to actually hand somebody water, food, and
yeah,
so on.
yeah.
It was beautiful. So
No, think about the changes that happened. People saw the kindness. They saw the joy that it brought when they were giving. They felt that the kids who were running and giving saw and felt kindness. The people who were on the receiving end saw and felt kindness. And then the other people who heard about it, I'm hearing about it, our audience is hearing about it. So we're hearing about the kindness. Think about the impact that just seeing or hearing about kindness has, what it does to our endorphins, how it makes us feel inside. We feel gratitude. We feel appreciative. We're grateful for the people who are so kind and willing to do those things. And then, as you experience those things, you think, because of what I'm feeling now, because of how I feel inside, I know something. I know
right.
that kindness works. I know that it matters. I know that serving lifts and builds and strengthens. And if I know it did it then, maybe it'll do it today and it'll do it tomorrow. And if I go out and try to put those things into practice, I can make this world a better place. Go figure. you know?
And to me, I witnessed firsthand this world being a better place, because there's nothing more beautiful than young people not playing video games, not on their electronics. Sometimes there'd be a gap between one car and the next, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, and as soon as they saw another, somebody they could serve, they ran, like physically ran to see who can give the food first to this car that was coming up. And that, to me, that was I'll never forget that sight.
That's amazing. And amazingly, the time has flown by, and we've hit that point in the podcast where we need to ask you, my wonderful friend, what are some 3 nuggets, 3 pearls of wisdom that you would like to share excuse me, that you would like to share with our audience related to kindness?
Well, I think you know the first one, that this is our slogan, our motto, which is with kindness, everybody wins. Everybody wins. And I think the win is not just the giver and the receiver, but it's also those
The
who are
world.
observing, and both. Yeah. Well, with this, if I give, I get something, you get something as a receiver. We two connected as two human beings connecting from that experience. But I think it's also the third party, people that are silently watching and observing this, they also win too, because they get inspired by it.
Yep.
So I feel like that's the biggest one. I also think, you know, kindness, I think kindness and happiness are so interconnected that you really can't have one without the other.
No.
You know, I think happy people, for the most part, perform acts of kindness all the time because their batteries are full, right? And they're able to extend that kindness. On the other side, however, and you shared it, and this is scientifically proven, when we perform acts of kindness, the chemicals that are released in that process stay in our system, you know, for hours, if not days. So, like I said, kindness and happiness, you can't have one without the other. And I think the last part is, I really have to go back to what my grandpa said: do something good for somebody else every day, and you'll be the person in the world. That's
You'll be
it.
the richest person in the world. Yeah.
Yes.
So when you think
Yes.
about this, I had it as you were talking, I had one statement come to my mind. Every time we do something kind, the sum of happiness in the world increases.
Every time.
Every time the sum goes up. And
Yeah.
the opposite is true. Every time we do something unkind, that sum goes down. So we have to determine where we're going to be. Are we going to be the ones that help the sum to go up? Or are we going to be the ones to take away from it? Well, hopefully people will come away inspired from this show today and every day and want to be the ones that make it go up. But Elia, thank you. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for taking for sharing with us your, wonderful wisdom and insights, your beautiful stories. Love and appreciate you, my friend. I'm so grateful that you're my co-host and that I had a chance to interview you and to share you with our audience. I want to invite you in our audience to, like we do every week, take the time to stop and think, what did I learn from this podcast today? How is it applicable to me? And what am I going to do about it? What am I going to do about what I've learned? I invite you to do as our good friend Barry Shorwich, go out and go mad, go make a difference.
Make a difference.
And remember, with kindness,
everybody wins.
Everybody wins. Thank you.
And Randy, I just want to also thank you for being such a wonderful example of kindness. You live, breathe, eat, sleep. When you're awake, it's your whole life is about that. And I can't wait to share the stage with you, man, in Sicily next month and see you. It'll be great to give you a big hug, and let's continue to spread kindness all over the world.
Let's do it. And we're so blessed to work with Kevin Smith. That guy is on fire. Kindness Worldwide has garnered local, national, and now it's getting international attention. Be on the watch. It's a movement. It's a train that's moving forward. You should come and jump on it with us. Elia, I just realized I forgot to ask the prime question. How can people connect with Dr. Elia Gourgouris? How can they connect with you if they want to find out more and learn more about you?
Yeah, I think my website, dreliagourgouris.com. So DR and then first name, last name.com. LinkedIn, Instagram, Dr. Elia G.
Are all your social media links on your website?
Yeah, they're all there. Yeah.
Great.
So, and I look forward to. I want to connect with as many people as possible. If you're into kindness, if you're a kindness advocate, or you would like to become one, or you're just starting as a kindness advocate, we're here to help, support, love you. Come on board, connect with Randy and I, and let's go.
All right. Thanks so much. Take care. Thank you for listening.